I now give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Shukran, Sayyid.
Thank you, Madam President. On the 17th of this month, Syria commemorated the 76th anniversary, marking the withdrawal of the last French soldier from its lands. As a result of the great sacrifices of the Syrian people. Today, Syrians prove yet again their determination and resolve to continue their struggle to ensure that every occupation of Syrian territories will be doomed, no matter how long it takes. This applies to the current illegal and illegitimate presence of US and Turkish forces in the northeast and northwest of my country, as well as the Israeli occupation of the Syrian Golan. Ending this illegal foreign presence will ensure Syria's sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity. It will also end the sponsorship of separatist militias and terrorist groups by these forces. It will also help eliminate terrorist outposts of ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra and their affiliate entities and groups. Ending this illegal foreign presence will also put an end to the current abysmal conditions in Al-Hol and Al-Rukban camps, and it will allow the repatriation of foreign terrorists and their families to their countries of origin. It will also put an end to all forms of displacement, demographic change, and looting of Syrian national wealth, and will restore to Syrians their national economic resources, which will eventually lead to strengthening security and stability in Syria and the region, and will improve the humanitarian and living conditions, together with creating the conditions conducive to the voluntary, dignified, and safe return of internally displaced people and refugees. The plight Syria has endured during the past 10 years as a result of the destructive and criminal policies of certain Western countries requires those countries to be held accountable for their crimes. In this regard, I would like to refer to the letter dated April 18th, addressed by the Syrian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates to the Secretary General of the United Nations and the President of the Security Council on war crimes and the crimes against humanity committed by the forces of the so-called international coalition led by the United States of America on Syrian territories in the city of Raqqa and the Baghuz area in Deir ez-Zor countryside, which claimed the lives of thousands of innocent civilians, including women and children, and caused the destruction of infrastructure, public and private property, health and educational facilities, and a number of places of worship. The Syrian Arab Republic holds the U.S. administration and its allies involved in those attacks fully responsible for the crimes committed by their military forces that have joined the ranks of this illegal coalition. And if the Security Council was serious about stopping and preventing war crimes and crimes against humanity, it has to immediately start an investigation into what happened in the demolished Raqqa and the beleaguered Baghuz. Madam President, my delegation have attentively listened to Mr. Geir Pedersen's briefing and to the briefing of Ms. Joyce Misoya, whom we will welcome to Syria during her visit in mid-May with a view to enhancing the existing cooperation between the Syrian government and OCHA. This will also be an opportunity for Ms. Misoya to familiarize herself with the situation on the ground, and notwithstanding the fact that these periodic briefings tackle the dire humanitarian conditions experienced by Syrians in various parts of the country, some Western countries continue to be tone deaf to the disastrous impacts of the unilateral coercive measures imposed on the Syrian people by the United States of America and the European Union. Those measures of economic terrorism have led to a decline in economic and development indicators, a decline in investment and trade exchange, a rise in inflation rates, the depreciation of the Syrian currency, and an increase in the funding gap necessary to provide basic services. Those inhumane measures have also impeded the import of food, medicine, and pharmaceutical raw materials, as well as medical equipment and agricultural and industrial production requirements, including seeds, fertilizers, and machinery, which has negatively affected food security and jeopardized the right to food, which consequently led to a significant decline in the standard of living of Syrians. The repercussions of UCMs are not only limited to the livelihoods of Syrians, but they also have impeded humanitarian international governmental and non-governmental organizations as a result of the reluctance by banks, insurers, and shipping companies, as well as suppliers, to meet the demands of those organizations for fear of being subject to Western sanctions. This spiked the costs of supplying the required humanitarian aid. It has been proven beyond doubt that any talk of exemptions from those unjust coercive measures are baseless allegations propagated by the US and the EU to cover up their violations of human rights, the international law, and the Charter of the United Nations. Meanwhile, those very countries, I mean Western countries, continue to obstruct the implementation of Resolution 2585 on promoting and increasing early recovery projects by cutting their funding and linking the implementation thereof to politicized conditions, together with delaying the adoption of the strategic framework and country program documents regulating cooperation between the Syrian government and UN agencies operating in Syria, by prioritizing their special considerations and agendas over any humanitarian or operational considerations. Certain donors have even stopped supporting some of the Syrian Arab Red Crescent's programs, including the Children's Hospital in Aleppo, the community first aid programs, and programs to address malnutrition. The United States and its Western allies, including its Turkish ally and their stooges of separatist militias and terrorist groups, continue to obstruct the delivery of cross-line aid within Syrian territory to justify their continued violation of Syrian sovereignty through the so-called cross-border aid delivery mechanism, which constitutes a lifeline for terrorist organizations and beneficiaries of war economy. As a result of those policies, 9 months have lapsed since the adoption of Resolution 2585, where only 3 cross-line convoys, that is 42 trucks only, have been dispatched to the northwest, as compared to hundreds of cross-border trucks that have been dispatched. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the Syrian Arab Republic, as it commemorates its 76th National Day, is more committed to its sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity, and unity of its land and people, and more resolved and determined to restore security and stability and to extend its authority over its entire territories, and is more keen on providing decent livelihood for its people. Syria renews its commitment to the political solution based on the Syrian national dialogue and the Syrian-owned, Syrian-led political process without any external interference. and in a manner that fulfills the aspirations and hopes of the Syrian people. Syria commends the efforts of the national delegation during the 7th round of the Constitutional Committee and looks forward to holding its next round, emphasizing the need to fully adhere to its terms of reference and rules of procedure. Meanwhile, Syria rejects any external interference in the committee's work or imposing any predetermined results or artificial timetables thereupon. The Syrian government will continue its efforts to achieve national reconciliation, including by forging ahead with the local reconciliation efforts that enjoy large-scale turnout in many Syrian cities and regions. In implementation of the amnesty decrees issued by the President of the Republic, which enabled thousands of Syrians inside and outside Syria to return to their normal lives. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic for his statement.